February 12, 1941, Libyan desert. General Major Erwin Rommel set foot on African soil for the first time in Tripoli. He was 49 years old, one of the youngest general generation in the German army. With him was a small headquarters staff and a map. British intelligence reported, German general arrived in Libya. A few thousand men. No danger. Probably will take defensive position. 6 weeks later, Rommel had driven the British 8th Army back 500 miles. Benghazi, Tobruk besieged, the Egyptian border reached. British generals were in shock. What had happened? What did Rommel do that bewildered experienced British commanders? The answer wasn't simple. Rommel wasn't just fighting differently. He was rewriting all the rules of desert warfare. Speed, deception, aggression, risk-taking. These weren't just concepts. They were Rommel's DNA. This is a story of how the Desert Fox shocked the British Army. Before we continue with the story, please hit the like button. It helps us reach more people with these forgotten stories. If you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications. Now let's get back to the story. Before Rommel came to Africa, he was already famous. The May-June 1940 France campaign made him legendary. Rommel commanded the 7th Panzer Division. The division earned the nickname Ghost Division. It moved so fast that nobody knew where it was. Not the British and French, sometimes not even the German High Command. May 10th, 1940, German offensive began. Rommel crossed the Meuse River, broke through French lines. Next 6 weeks, the 7th Panzer advanced 200 miles, turned behind enemy lines, encircled French and British units. Rommel's tactics in France. Speed is everything. Day-night movement. To the next objective before the enemy recovers. Lead from the front. Rommel fought at the head of his tanks. Gave orders by radio. From the front line, risk-taking. Ignored flanks. Straightforward. Maximum destruction, minimum time. Deception. Fake attacks, noise, lights. Enemy couldn't tell where he was. Result. France collapsed in 6 weeks. Rommel received the Knight's Cross. Hitler loved him. But important, Rommel clashed with his superiors. He didn't like waiting for orders. Advance without permission. Staff officers were angry. Rommel is out of control. Hitler didn't care. Results counted. And Rommel delivered results. January 1941, the Italians suffered disaster in Libya. The British were destroying them. Hitler had to send rescue. But who? Someone experienced, aggressive, independent. Answer, Rommel. February 6, 1941, Hitler summoned Rommel. Go to Africa. Save the Italians. Stop the British. Rommel accepted, but he wasn't sure. Is the desert suitable for tanks? Within a few weeks, he would become the world's greatest desert warfare commander. The British army Rommel faced in Africa was strong, but it had a mentality problem. British generals had been raised in traditional military education. What they learned: careful planning, methodological advance, logistics priority. British war doctrine: planning is everything. Operations planned weeks in advance. Every detail calculated. Logistics first priority. No advance without supply. Establish depot, then move. Careful advance. Step by step. Take objective, consolidate, then continue. Avoid risk. Avoid uncertainty. Don't attack without definite advantage. This doctrine came from World War I. It made sense in trench warfare. But in the desert? The Libyan desert was like nothing the British knew. Vast open space. No front lines. Tanks can move 360 degrees. Logistical nightmare. No water, no food. Everything must come from hundreds of miles away. Weather conditions: hot day, 50 degrees, cold night. Sandstorms. Difficult navigation. No landmarks, no roads. Just sand and rock. The British were trying to adapt to these difficulties, but their mentality was still in World War I. The British were unprepared, and Rommel would exploit this. February 1941, quiet entry. Rommel arrived in Tripoli. British intelligence was watching. Small German force. A few thousand men. Tanks limited. No threat. The British were right, on paper. Rommel really only had 5,000 men and 100 tanks. But the British overlooked one thing, Rommel's mentality. March 24th, 1941, first reconnaissance. Rommel ordered a small reconnaissance attack. Target, Gazala, British forward position. The British expected small German patrol will withdraw. But Rommel did something different. The reconnaissance attack turned into a full attack. German tanks crushed the British position. The British were surprised. They withdrew. March 31st, Rommel doesn't stop. British commanders thought, Rommel took Gazala. Now he'll consolidate, wait for reinforcements. That was standard doctrine. Take one objective, settle in, then advance. But Rommel wasn't standard. March 31st, Rommel gave orders to advance toward Benghazi. Immediately, his staff objected. Her general, our supply is insufficient. We should wait. Rommel refused. Waiting gives time to the enemy. Move. Now. British 2nd Armored Division was positioned near Benghazi. They felt comfortable. The Germans are weeks away. April 2nd, Rommel's tanks arrived at Benghazi. 150 miles in 48 hours. The British were in panic. Retreat order. Withdraw to Tobruk. But the withdrawal was chaotic. Roads jammed. Supply trucks left behind. Units scattered. Rommel pursued. Non-stop. British generals O'Connor and Neame were driving to Tobruk when they got lost. Took the wrong road in darkness. Result, German patrol captured them. 2 generals prisoners. British command was headless. Summary of Rommel's first tactics. Aggression. Turn small gain into big gain. Risk. Ignore supply problems. Advance is priority. Deception. Enemy doesn't know where he is. The British had never encountered such an enemy. April 1941, Tobruk resists. Rommel reached Tobruk. The port city, strategic importance tremendous. Rommel immediately attacked. But Tobruk was different. British and Australian units were ready. Fortified positions, artillery support, supply from the sea. April 11th to 14th, Rommel made 3 attacks. All repulsed. Casualties heavy. Rommel was stopped for the first time. Lesson learned. Speed wasn't enough against fortified positions. Artillery and systematic siege were needed. But Rommel was impatient. He besieged Tobruk, but directed resources to advance toward the Egyptian border. British reaction. In London, Churchill was shocked. Who is Rommel? Where did he come from? British intelligence updated report. Rommel is dangerous. Experienced, aggressive, fast. Don't underestimate. New commander appointed. Pressure on General Wavell. Stop Rommel. Let's examine Rommel's specific tactics that shocked the British. Tactic 1. Lead from front. British generals generally commanded from headquarters. Maps, radio reports, plans. Rommel was different. He was at the front of his tanks. Example, a British officer's memory. The first time I saw Rommel, I couldn't believe it. The German commander on top of his own tank, under enemy fire, looking through binoculars. Our generals 50 miles behind. Rommel on the front line. Advantage. Rommel saw the situation instantly, exploited opportunities immediately. British generals received reports hours later. Disadvantage. Risk. Rommel nearly died several times, but it was the price of risk. Tactic 2. Space over time. British doctrine. Tanks advance carefully. Flanks protected, rear secure. Rommel doctrine. Speed is everything. Ignore flanks and rear. Straightforward. Example, May 1941, Operation Brevity. British planned attack. Careful, step by step. Each objective to be consolidated. Rommel counterattacked. Fast, deep penetration. Hit British flank. British were surprised. Rommel's flanks are open. We can encircle him. But they couldn't. Rommel was too fast. Before the British could regroup, Rommel was already elsewhere. Result, speed had armor value. The British couldn't make accurate hits because Rommel wasn't a stationary target. Tactic 3. Anti-tank use of 88mm guns. The German 88mm anti-aircraft gun was famous, but Rommel used it in a new way. As a tank hunter, 88mm advantages. Long range, 2,000 meters. British tanks effective at 1,000 meters. High penetration, can pierce any British tank. Accurate. Hit rate 80% plus. Rommel's tactic, hide 88mm guns in desert, camouflage with sand. Let British tanks approach to their effective range. .88mm opens fire. British tanks hit one by one. Before British withdraw. Panzers attack. Result: British tanks were helpless. Couldn't see enemy guns, couldn't hit them, but they were being hit. British reaction: lost their tanks. Morale collapsed. Commanders complained. 88mm is unfair. Anti-aircraft guns can't be used against tanks. But there are no rules in war. Rommel won. Tactic 4, night movements. The British didn't move at night. Too risky. Getting lost, collision, confusion. Rommel loved night. Why night? Surprise. Enemy doesn't expect NO air superiority. British aircraft don't fly at night in 1941. Deception easy. Real strength invisible in darkness. Example, June 1941. Operation Battle Axe. British started daylight attack. Rommel withdrew, apparently. At night, Rommel counterattacked. Turned behind British lines. Morning. British were shocked. Rommel came from behind. How? How did he cross the night? Rommel used navigation skills. Stars, compass, experienced guides. Darkness wasn't a problem for him. Tactic 5, deception, phantom tanks. Rommel had numerical disadvantage. The British had more tanks. Solution: make enemy doubt about numbers. Methods: fake tanks. Volkswagen cars camouflaged like tanks. Looked real from distance. Dust clouds. Trucks drew circles in desert, created giant dust clouds. Looked like tank columns. Noise, night radio traffic, engine sounds. British thought, big force coming. Result: British intelligence overestimated Rommel's strength by 50 to 100%. Delayed attacks were cautious. Rommel appeared strong when weak. Psychological advantage was tremendous. The British tried to understand and counter Rommel's tactics. Operation Brevity, May 1941. British plan: limited attack to stop Rommel. Take Halfaya Pass. Result: failure. Rommel counterattacked. British repulsed. Why failed? British still careful, methodological. Rommel fast, aggressive. Operation Battle Axe, June 1941. Churchill pressured. If you can't beat Rommel, I'll replace you. General Wavell plan, major attack. 3 divisions, 200 tanks, artillery support. Plan looked good, but execution? June 15th, attack began. British tanks advanced. Rommel set 88mm trap. British tanks approached hidden guns. Were hit. British tanks burning. Commanders panic. Withdraw. June 17th, Rommel counterattacked. British fled. Loss: 100 tanks, 1,000 men. Wavell fired. Replacement: General Leck. Why did the British still lose? Mentality problem. Still using World War I doctrine. Lack of speed. Rommel decides in 24 hours. British in 48. Command structure. British generals manage from headquarters. Rommel at front. Technology. British tanks helpless against 88mm gun. The British needed to adapt. But bureaucratic army learned slowly. November 1941. The British finally learned some lessons. New commander, General Leck. Leck was more aggressive. Studied Rommel. Looked for weak points. Weak points. Supply. Rommel's supply lines too long. Vulnerable. Overextension. Rommel advanced too fast. Flanks weak. Italian allies. Rommel's Italian units weak. Can be attacked. Operation Crusader, November 18, 1941. British plan, major attack. 7 divisions, 700 tanks. Goal: break Tobruk siege, push Rommel back. Innovations: British moved faster. Copied Rommel's tactics. Ignored flanks. Some units moved at night. Result: initially successful. British reached Tobruk, broke siege. but Rommel counterattacked. Savage, chaotic battles. Both sides took heavy casualties. December 1941, Rommel had to withdraw. Supply running out, no reinforcements. British victory. But cost was high, 300 tanks lost. But important, the British finally beat Rommel because they adapted his tactics. January 1942, Rommel received reinforcements. New tanks, new soldiers. January 21st, Rommel counterattacked. British surprise. Rommel was finished. How was he attacking? Rommel drove the British back 200 miles to the Gazala line. May-June 1942, Battle of Gazala, Rommel's most brilliant victory. British General Ritchie established strong defense line, minefields, fortifications, tanks. Rommel attacked. Deep flanking movement, turn behind British lines. Chaotic battle. But Rommel showed superior tactics. Night movements, deception. June 21st, Tobruk fell. 30,000 British prisoners. Churchill, shame, Tobruk should not fall. Rommel received Feldmarschall rank. July 1942, Rommel entered Egypt, as far as El Alamein. Peak. Rommel had never been this successful, but he stopped at El Alamein. Supply finished. British reinforcements came. August-October 1942, two El Alamein battles. New British commander, Bernard Montgomery. Montgomery was different, methodological, careful, but had studied Rommel. Montgomery's strategy. Numerical superiority. 2 times more tanks than Rommel. 3 times more men. Logistics. Unlimited supply. Rommel had none. Plan against Rommel's tactics. Counter-artillery for 88 millimeters. Defense in depth for speed. October 23rd, Montgomery attacked. Giant artillery barrage. Then tanks. Rommel fought, but he no longer had advantage. No speed advantage. British are fast now, too. That no numerical advantage. British have more. That no surprise. Montgomery fortified everywhere. November 4th, Rommel withdrew. His first major defeat. Rommel left Africa in 1943, but his tactics remained. British Army changed. Speed adopted. Now British also move fast. Aggression. Montgomery and later generals more aggressive. Front command. More generals at front. Deception. British learned from Rommel, used on D-Day. Foundations of modern tank warfare. Rommel's desert tactics laid the foundation for modern mechanized warfare. Speed and shock. Deep penetration. Deception and surprise dot commander's front leadership. Conclusion. Rommel shocked the British Army because he fought differently, rejected traditional doctrine, took risks, moved fast, led from the front. The British fought him for 2 years, suffered heavy casualties, but finally learned, and they used what they learned in Normandy, in Germany, until the war's end. Rommel's legacy. The Desert Fox brought the British Army into the modern age. If this story affected you, please hit the like button. Every like helps us reach more people with these forgotten stories. Thanks for watching.